We all know the analogy of a ripple effect. It's where you throw a pebble into a body of water. The rock's only there for a short period of time, but the impacts are indefinite. And that's just like us. We're only here for a second in time. However, our impacts can go on indefinitely. Those impacts can be positive, they can be negative, but one thing's for certain, is they're never neutral.
The Alumni Committee is a part of the Education Foundation, and each year they look for those graduates who have really excelled in the area of their career, in community service, in other ways that they've really distinguished themselves from so many of our fine graduates. Ken Cahey has been honored in the past. He is the retired CEO of Providence Hospital. We've honored a missionary, we've honored 2 authors, including one gentleman who wrote a screenplay. We have honored a doctor and a judge in the past. We were very pleased to see Brian Townley's nomination. We were especially proud of the fact that he began his career as a student at Midway High School and took it to even greater heights. From that point on, he was a member of the vocational education program and started working as a bank teller, managed to rise through the ranks of bank leadership and then eventually branch out into leadership and motivational speaking. In addition to that, we were very pleased to read about Brian's involvement in civic matters. He's a huge proponent of nonprofits and the work that they do, and he's very generous with his time and with his gifts, with funds to help nonprofits in our area.
I think Brian was chosen because he's been successful in more than one field. His main success it started off as he was a banker. And I think his active listening probably helped him, because when people feel like they're being heard, they will cooperate more, they'll listen more, they'll engage more. He was a leader in the banking business. Then he started speaking. He was asked to speak about leading. He became an outstanding speaker in Texas, then nationally, and now internationally.
My time at Midway was over a 13-year period. I started out in kindergarten and graduated in 1988. During that time, I had many different mentors. One distinct one I remember was in the 3rd grade when I met Miss Gilchrist. Miss Gilchrist had the opportunity and the ability to make me start loving school. She just had a way of pulling me out of my shell, and my grades began to change. My attitude towards school began to change, and that is something that I'll never forget, because she gave me the confidence that I needed when I needed it the most.
I first met Brian Townley in 1978 when he was being moved into my 3rd grade classroom about 6 weeks or so after the school year had started. That was a highly unusual move at that time. I told the children I was really excited we were going to get a new boy in our class, but I was thinking, where in the heck are we going to put him? And how can I integrate somebody, from another class into this class? It was an unusual thing. I noticed immediately that Brian was an excellent listener. I had to teach mostly by lecture, and most of the students were listeners, but I had to work hard to engage a few of them. Brian was always engaged, and he not only listened, but he actively listened so that he gave back to me through facial expressions. Somehow it was important to me that every student in my room had beautiful handwriting, and they did. And Brian had exceptionally beautiful handwriting.
In high school, my parents had encouraged me to enter the job force. As a result, I went to meet with Monty Monroe, who was in charge of the vocational education program. She introduced me to a bank, and I interviewed, got a job as a drive-through teller, making $3.10 an hour, and over a 26-year period was able to retire there in 2014 as the senior vice president. Midway was very instrumental in preparing me for the workforce by first introducing me to a job that they felt I was a good fit for. It was this opportunity that I had getting a job at the bank that allowed me to explore the facets of leadership. And in 2005, I had the opportunity of doing my first public speaking engagement, which turned into a career that I still, to this day, am so intrigued by and so excited. I've been to 16 different countries and spoke at 47 different states. And it's something that, had I not had the opportunity to enter the banking world and lead and inspire people, then I would have never had the desire to try to turn that around and be a leader and someone that inspires other people.
He's also written several books. One of his books is called The Ripple Effect. This book talks about how a leader affects other people who affect other people, and it's affected me personally.
As I was experiencing many different opportunities to share my message and my story, I was always asked to put these and condense these into a package. And in 2011, I wrote my first book. It was called Inspiring Leadership: Unleashing Motivation in the Workplace. This book was based on the fact that I started my career at a bank at a very young age. And within a very short time, they had asked me to manage the facility. And so the first book was based on my trials and tribulations during that time. In 2015, I released my most recent book called Ripple Effect, which is about the impacts that we make on people. We all know the analogy of a ripple effect. It's where you throw a pebble into a body of water. The rock's only there for a short period of time, but the impacts are indefinite. And those impacts can be positive, they can be negative, but one thing's for certain, is they're never neutral.
He's been really generous to the Midway Foundation in his donations. Some of his donations have gone to our endowment fund and will be helping students years and years from now. And some donations are helping students right now.
In 2014, I had a full circle moment. And that's when Monty Ragsdale Monroe contacted me and introduced me to the Midway Education Foundation. Midway had been so instrumental in starting my career and in introducing me to the bank that had such an amazing ripple effect on my life that I took a hard look at the benefits and the opportunities that the Education Foundation makes for other students.